by Jack Blanchard. Send tips here. Subscribe for free view in your browser. Good Thursday morning. Driving the day a nightmare before Christmas. The Prime Minister flies to Poland this morning after abruptly ending the career of her closest cabinet ally in an end-of-year sacking. As she heads to an Anglo-Polish summit in Warsaw, Theresa May will be braced for a barrage of questions from the travelling lobby about her decision to fire her most senior minister Damien Green. Politico's Annabelle Dixon is on board the PM's RAF Voyager aircraft and will be filing dispatches from Poland later today, where the temperature is an icy 1°C and heavy snow is forecast. But for May the winter chill has already set in, with this latest body blow capping off a true annus horribilis, and leaving her badly isolated once more at the top of government. The facts read: the allegations made against Green, which he disputes, by Tory activist Kate Maltby here. Read the Sunday Times revelations about pornography on his office computer here. Read the summary report by Cabinet Office investigator Sue Gray here. And read Green's exchange of letters with the PM last night here. The Guardian has done a handy timeline of the whole affair, plus a who's who of the main characters. The coverage. Despite the late-night announcement, every paper gets the Green story onto its front page this morning. The Mirror goes in hardest, mocking up Green as Pornocchio for not telling the truth about the investigation into sex images on his computer. The Guardian's splash says he outright lied, while the Times dubs it a porn cover-up. The Daily Mail is the only paper to take a sympathetic view, splashing with the headline, "What a sad way to go," and carrying a short comment inside, saying it regrets that Damien Green has been driven to resign. The same paper carried vitriolic attacks against Maltby by two of its star columnists last month, which her friends say led to violent threats against her. The reaction: Kate Maltby's parents say they feel vindicated by Gray's report, which concluded their daughter was a plausible witness. Green has yet to comment beyond his letter to the PM, but his wife Alicia told a TV journalist last night they are doing fine. Friends of Green, however, told the BBC's Nick Robinson they blame a 9-year vendetta by police. Writing in the Mirror today, columnist and deputy editor Alison Phillips brands Green a despicable, arrogant fool who deserved to be sacked. Green Party co-leader Caroline Lucas is one of several female MPs to praise the PM for her unflinching response. In The Telegraph, Tim Stanley sympathises with May and the thankless task she faces. The Guardian's Hugo Muir says the shabby affair leaves the PM lonelier than ever. A message from BP Solar is one of the fastest growing sources of energy and will generate 13 of the world's renewable power by 2035. Learn how Lightsource BP, our ambitious new U.K.-based partnership, is helping this happen. Green around the gills. Green's departure comes just as Downing Street aides were starting to hope they had turned a corner. An impossible budget was handled with aplomb. Sufficient progress has been achieved in the Brexit talks, and the EU withdrawal bill was about to clear its last big hurdle in the Commons. But then on Monday afternoon, May received the damning report on her deputy's behaviour, which left her little choice but to act. The PM was clearly reluctant to lose a third cabinet minister in 7 weeks, even obtaining a second opinion from her ministerial ethics advisor Alex Allen, but he concurred Green had indeed broken the rules by telling the Sunday Times it was completely untrue that police had found porn on his office computer. Not only was it true, but cops had explicitly informed him of the discovery. Crisis management. The report on Green sat on May's desk for 2 days before she made her move last night. The delay meant the PM dodged awkward questioning about Green's behaviour both at Prime Minister's questions and at yesterday's lengthy session before the Liaison Committee, where she gave not a hint of the political explosion to come, a reminder that sometimes the nabbot poker face is a fine weapon to have in your arsenal. The announcement itself was made at 8:39 p.m, about as late in the day as you can possibly leave it without being accused of actively burying the news. Helpfully, the PM will be abroad today and tomorrow, and does not return to the Commons for questioning until January 10. A scandal for the ages. Playbook wonders if Damien Green might be the most senior British minister ever forced out by a political scandal. A procession of Home Secretaries got the chop under New Labour for varying misdemeanours, and the Tory-led governments that followed have obviously lost a Defence Secretary or two. A chief whip has been forced out in recent years, as have at least a couple of chief secretaries. To the Treasury. John Profumo was Secretary for War, Cecil Parkinson and Peter Mandelson were both at Trade and Industry, Chris Huhne was at Energy and Climate Change. But the scandalous departure of the second most powerful figure in government is surely one for the history books. Journo had ups to the Times political correspondent Henry Zeffman, who broke the first Damien Green story on November 1. The Sunday Times Home Affairs correspondent Tom Harper, who broke the porn allegations 4 days later, and to Guido, who called it right yesterday after pretty much every paper had wrongly reported Green's fate was about to be sealed at various points over recent weeks. What happens next? Tomorrow's story will be all about who succeeds Green as Theresa May's number 2. The early money is piling on Jeremy Hunt, who was last night tipped by two of the lobby's best-connected journos, Times political editor Francis Elliott and his Sunday Times counterpart Tim Shipman. While hardly popular with the public, Hunt is a non-divisive figure within the Tory party after backing Remain in 2016, but insisting he now supports Brexit. Amber Rudd seems a more obvious choice, being a close ally of May, but her further promotion would be bitterly opposed by the Brexiteers. Michael Gove has the same problem among Remainers. Gavin Williamson remains an outside bet, despite having enraged half the Tory party with his dramatic move to the Defence Ministry last month. No hurry, don't expect a decision too soon. Green has no department to call his own, meaning there is no rush for May to appoint a successor. Her new de facto deputy is likely to be announced early in the new year, most likely as part of a wider reshuffle. Reminder: a separate Cabinet Office inquiry is still ongoing into the behaviour of another government minister, Mark Garnier, nearly 2 months after he admitted calling his assistant sugar tits and asking her to buy sex toys. With the Green inquiry over, questions will start to be asked about where exactly it is up to. A string of other Tory and Labour MPs are also still under investigation by their own parties for alleged sexual harassment. Footnote: The Mail's diary reports how Garnier's now ex-assistant, Caroline Edmondson, and her husband John Craig of Sky News have sent out comedy Christmas cards featuring her posing with a box of icing sugar by her chest. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. The EU's Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier said on Wednesday that he wants Britain's post-Brexit transition period to expire on December 31, 2020. More from POLITICO's David M. Herzenhorn, Quentin Aries and Annabelle Dixon. Meanwhile in Warsaw, pole position May is due in Warsaw mid-morning and is accompanied on her trip by her most senior remaining ministers, Chancellor Philip Hammond, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and Home Secretary Amber Rudd. They will hold bilateral talks with the most senior ministers in the Polish government at a summit designed to bring the two nations closer together. My colleague Annabelle Dixon reports May will today sign a new bilateral security treaty designed to promote closer working on defense and information sharing. May last night called it a powerful symbol of our continued close cooperation. The PM will hold a press conference in Warsaw today with Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki at 1:50 p.m. UK time. But the Prime Minister's extraordinary run of bad luck continues, as her trip coincides with an unprecedented standoff between Warsaw and Brussels. The European Commission yesterday savaged the Polish government for undemocratic behavior, threatening to strip it of EU voting rights. POLITICO's Jan Cienski reports that Poland is refusing to back down, with hardline President Andrzej Duda telling the nation last night he will press ahead with new controls over the country's judicial system. May and her team have little choice but to get involved. We place great importance on respect for the rule of law, May's spokesman said yesterday. The Prime Minister will raise her concerns with the Polish Prime Minister when they meet. Out of the frying pan after today's tricky summit in Warsaw, Boris Johnson will fly on to Moscow for the first trip to Russia by British Foreign Secretary in 5 years. Johnson will meet with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov for talks tomorrow. Join the first global leadership roundtable centered on issues at the intersection of AI and governance, and the launching point for solutions-driven conversations between policymakers, scientists, innovators, industries, startups and academics. Grab a seat alongside leaders such as Belgian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander De Croo, European Commission Vice President for the Digital Single Market Andrus Ansip, European Commissioner for Research, Science, and Innovation Carlos Moedas, MEP Pilar del Castillo Vera, and former Deputy Prime Minister, UK Artijon Nick Clegg. Join us as we delve into topics such as AI safety and transparency, fairness and accountability, AI and society. Book your seat today, and Catalonia Independence Day too. Catalonia goes to the polls today for a regional election that could reignite the crisis in Spain. The last Catalan government was dissolved by Spanish PM Mariano Rajoy after it declared independence from Spain in the wake of an illegal referendum. The separatists hope to win a fresh mandate in the new regional parliament that would strengthen their claim that Catalonia is ready to break away from the rest of Spain. Unionists hope the threat of civil unrest will spur locals to vote in favor of their side. Results are expected this evening, though the winner may not be formally declared until early in the new year. Rajoy's big gamble. The final opinion polls last week predicted a hung parliament, but PM Rajoy is betting on unionists turning out in higher than expected numbers to fight off the threat of separation. Politicos Diego Torres reports. Many people believe the independence issue won't get anywhere, and they've seen the point it has reached, which is worrying them, shop worker David Matos says, arguing that many of his friends who previously didn't care about politics will cast a ballot for the Unionists this time. Today in Westminster Sports Day, Birmingham will be unveiled as the host of the 2022 Commonwealth Games this morning. The BBC has the latest. Badgercull Environment Secretary Michael Gove will make a written statement on bovine TB this morning, the Commons Order paper reveals, given the rate at which he has been tearing up policies to show how much Tories love cuddly animals. Badgercull campaigners will be watching with bated breath, and while you're waiting you should read this excellent profile of Gove the Eco-Warrior by HuffPost's Owen Bennett. Trade war. The U.S. Department of Commerce last night confirmed anti-dumping duties of 292% targeted at Canadian firm Bombardier. Doug Palmer reports for Politico. Pro Trade and Transport subscribers. The amount is slightly lower than preliminary levels announced earlier this year, but still a damaging blow to the UK and Canadian aerospace industries. Deficit day. Monthly stats on public sector borrowing will be published at 9:30 a.m. Feudal fury. Communities. Secretary Sajid Javid is banning rip-off leaseholds on new-built homes as part of a package of measures to end feudal practices in the property market. ITV News has the latest. In case you missed it last night, the EU withdrawal bill cleared its final day of committee stage in the Commons last night, after the government compromised on its plan to write the time and date of Brexit into law. The Guardian's Heather Stewart and team have the story. The bill now heads to the report stage in the new year, with the next big showdown looming in the House of Lords. Save the date. Politicos Brussels Playbook Cocktails with Daniel Ek, CEO and founder of Spotify, presented by the European Tech Alliance. The event will take place in Brussels on January 9 at 6:00 p.m. Request an invitation. Media Round Today Programme. Health Minister Jeremy Hunt 8:10 a.m. Labour MP Jess Phillips. Time not confirmed. All out. Politics. Sky News 10 a.m. Former Tory aide Joanne Nadler and comedian Mark Dolan review the newspaper comments sections 10:15 a.m. Corbynista Matt Zarb cousin and Progress director Richard Angel review the Labour Party's year, along with focus group expert Vicky Cook of Britain thinks 10:30 a.m. Reviewing the papers tonight. BBC News 10:40 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Former Trade Minister Digby Jones and broadcaster Henry Bonsu. Sky News 10:30 p.m. 11:30 p.m. Observer leader writer Sonia Sodder and author Isabel Oakeshott. Today's front pages. Click on the publication's name to see its front page. City AM. Carney's Christmas cheer. Daily Express eats salads to beat dementia. Daily Mail. What a sad way to go. Daily Mirror. May axes her deputy over porn lies. Daily Telegraph. Green sacked as May loses another minister. FT. City woos investment banks with promise of easy access after Brexit. Guardian. Green sacked after admitting he lied over pornographic images. HuffPost. Grexit. Damian Green resigns. UK demands total secrecy for trade talks with US independent. Damian Green resigns. Theresa May's deputy quits after pornography claims. Metro. Green out. Sun. Green fired over porn. Times Green is forced out over computer porn cover-up. A message from BP: we operate the largest renewables business of any oil and gas company in the world. Learn how we are adding solar to our wind and biofuels operations. Beyond the M25 from Berlin, moody march is on. Reports of Angela Merkel's demise have been greatly exaggerated. Politico's Paul Taylor reports. From DC taxing times: Donald Trump's turbulent year is ending on a high after massive tax reform plans were voted through. Politico's Eliana Johnson reports. From Lima corruption crisis: a sprawling corruption scandal that has rocked Latin America could today claim its biggest scalp, as a decision looms on the possible impeachment of the Peruvian president. The FT's Gideon Long has the story. London calling Westminster weather: cloud with rain, cloud grey and misty with outbreaks of rain through the morning. Drier in the afternoon, but still pretty grim. Scoop: new starter: The Sun has hired highly rated Daily Express hack Nick Guttridge as its new man in Brussels. Opening night: Hamilton, the political musical of this and probably any other decade, opens in Victoria tonight. Review: embargo lifts at the final curtain at 10:15 p.m. Prepare for liftoff. Happy birthday Ashfield. MP Gloria De Piero, Sky News boss John Riley, U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, and French President Emmanuel Macron, who turns 40. I know. Playbook. Couldn't happen without my editors Zoya Shefdalovich and Kate Day. Subscribe to the Politico newsletter family. Morgan Europa, Brussels Playbook, London Playbook, Sunday Crunch, Brussels Influence, DC Playbook, all our Politico Probe Policy morning newsletters.